Sup shitters, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to a special SB Tech Talk. Here we go, so just adjusting the mic there. I'm going to make a quick video today, and it will probably be a quick video today on EA's stock price, which is important for people who are plotting the downfall of EA due to its behavior in the video game industry over the last couple of years. EA haven't got a good reputation at the moment. There was a lot of weirdness surrounding Battlefield 5, which was the main sort of contender for a lot of the big drop that you can see here in this part of the drive. If we go back 5 days, Battlefield 5 earnings the sales were lower than expected, so people sold their shares, and then just gradually boost up to the $84 market because I guess people were wanting to buy stocks at a certain rate and they were able to go back up. Which, before I should continue, I should probably mention that I have studied trades. I've studied stocks, I've studied finance, and I've got, at the very least, I've got a basic understanding of how these work and because I actually was working with this stuff, not just through university, but also the cryptocurrency crisis, where you literally have to watch stocks daily because of how insane it was back in late 2017. Despite the sales of Battlefield 5, the fact that the stocks dropped because they only sold 7.3 million copies is a video from Jim Sterling mentioned earlier today on the day that I'm recording this. It seems crazy that it might seem crazy that this led to this drop, but the problem is bigger than this. This seems like we've been pretty happy going between like the $85 and $92 mark in terms of stocks. If we go back 6 months. Over the last 6 months, we can see there's actually been a gradual decline in the stock rate. And this is where I'm coming in today. We can see there was a little bit of positivity happening into the new year with the announcement of how Anthem was going and how the demo was generally positively received. Here, I can imagine that will be part of it, or at least the hype for it. We can see there was a low point here, I guess, where people were like, I don't want to have these stocks for Christmas. They just basically sold them. You can see here in August there, but you can see this, it goes up and down, but you can see there's been basically a semi-linear trend going from here to here. So basically, at the start of August, it was up 128, and over the space of like 4 months, it went from $128 to $77. This, I would say, is far more significant than a one-day drop, because it shows that for like four months, EA just had nothing that could keep its investors happy. People just weren't interested in investing with it. If we go year to date, or rather, because this isn't helpful, because this is just from the start of the year until now, we can see that actually back at this time last year, the stocks were about 20% higher. So if you bought the stocks a year ago, you would have experienced a positive little surge there, and then I guess it just would have gone down. Stocks kind of they stabilized a bit, down, stabilized, a little bit of a peak, and then just kind of fell. And all this is saying is, to anyone looking to invest in EA, there's probably no point at the moment. You can look at the history. If you bought stocks 5 years ago and now at $27 per share, you'd still be making a profit. But it's like with Bitcoin, where to be able to make a profit at this point, considering the recent low we had, you would have needed to be investing around 2017, and that's to make like a point percentage of a profit. Like that's to have made a real profit, you needed to maybe invest about like 10-20%. You need to invest around like maybe 2015, which is 4 years ago now. So it's taken them 4 years. It took them 4 years to reach where we are now and increase about maybe 30%, 40%. And here with the peak in July 2018, that was indeed like about a 50% increase. It was just a little bit too. It seemed a little bit too good to be true. There's a peak here, and then there was a drop, and then another peak, and it was just hitting that 150. I guess it was just that kind of mental barrier for a lot of investors. They wanted to sell at 150. Maybe it seemed like a more round number. I guess I always get technical versus fundamental analysis confused, but it's one of the two, like the heuristic surrounding numbers and when to sell at. Because some people will choose to sell at 100, for instance, because it's a nice round number. Especially if you invested it when it was like $27. If you were to sell when it got to 100, then you made like a 300% increase, 350% increase on your original investment. So I know there was a lot of information, and I've gone into this kind of taking in a whole lot of this stuff for the first time. What this tells investors is that 150 was kind of the highest point that it got at, and that was when, like, what released in 2018? I guess it wouldn't have been Battlefield 5, would it? Okay, cool. So basically the deal is, what I can see here, this was for 2017, but I'm guessing that because FIFA 2019 got released around then. Maybe because of what's happening with the card packs and stuff in FIFA 2019. I'm guessing that there was a whole lot of interest in that back in 2018 when it was about to release. I'm guessing that's when it would have been released, because FIFA 2019 is like, the FIFA games are the one game where like EA knows it can get away with doing a lot of the kind of gambling, microtransactional bullshit with it though nowadays, is that like there are certain parts of the world now which have caught on to what EA's up to with these sort of seedy practices, and now I guess from an investor standpoint, it's like, right, so if EA can't make this money from these card packs, or the game isn't as profitable, then what reason do we have to basically invest in EA anymore? And the answer is, you really don't. There is no reason to invest in EA at the moment. The two games they've released, which is Apex Legends, which is a free-to-play game quite a lot like a mixture of Overwatch and Fortnite, and then you've got Anthem, which is just the clone of Destiny and Destiny 2. There's nothing new there. There's nothing original that would bring players into it. Of course, you're going to have the main fan, but the players that will just absorb any game released by EA, because they think they'll just go with the game that their friends are playing, and they'll go with the marketing. And yes, I'm saying that EA will definitely, they will definitely make some money, but it won't be spectacular. The problem with investors is that over the last maybe 5 years especially, like if we go to Max, you can see there like that they've had a period of exponential growth since 2012. That curve is astounding. So for a lot of investors, especially ones who invested back in 2012, it would seem like it was just never going to end. And you know, we had a dip here and we had that dip here. So people were talking about how this was the biggest dip since 2008 or something like that in a day. And I would believe that. I would believe that would be it. It's reasonably substantial. But what's important to remember here is that we have a company here who is offering products that already exist, and they're repeating on those products every year. And as their ability to be able to earn more through these side channels, through these microtransaction loot box channels, EA will slowly die. It will either die, or it will just become just the incumbent, just another company producing stuff every year, which it already is. But the problem is that gives competitors, indie devs, people who actually have a passion for gaming still, it gives them the ability to be able to step in and do something different. And because it's predictable. The problem with EA is, another problem with EA as well, is that EA are extremely predictable at the moment. People know what EA are going to do. They know that they're going to release a FIFA game because FIFA makes money for the shareholders. They know that Anthem they're going to release something like Anthem, which is a clone of another game. And then another one of the publishers is going to release a game that's a clone of another game, because they can't release anything too crazy. Because if they release anything too crazy, like a single player campaign for Star Wars, then EA's like, no, it won't make us money. And the problem with EA is that it can only imagine making money with things that it thinks can make enough money, but you've got all these talented people from these studios, right, who have all these ideas they want to put forward, because they're actually fucking game developers. They're developers. There are people who are supposed to be creative. But then you got EA kind of sticking its mitts in, and Apex Legends apparently didn't have too much input from EA in terms of its development, which is probably why it's a really interesting game to play. When you look at it in comparison to a game like Battlefront 2, which was just a complete mess, Apex Legends is fantastic. It's how a game with microtransactions and stuff is supposed to work. You know, we've seen Anthem with its $20 microtransactions that were being tested, apparently, or, you know, I don't even understand why you'd want to test that. The only reason I can think is that EA are actually desperate. They are struggling right now. They are desperate to be able to bring EA back to its heyday of 2018. They're trying to give investors a reason to come back to them, because, I mean, they had a bit of a growth period between December and January. Maybe they were getting a little bit overconfident. but the problem is that they just, not everything is in the present. You have stuff in the past and stuff in the present. And when EA is trying to justify to its shareholders why they should continue putting money into them, well, there is no point. You're not going to get more than 10% on EA stocks within the next year. And I think this is what EA are missing. There are lots of other competitors who could potentially go public, smaller indie studios, who maybe just need a bit of startup capital. Maybe they can hold 51% of the equity and then the shareholders can own 49%. And then maybe the studios can just take, I don't know, 100,000. They don't have to take millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. They can just take that hundreds of thousands of dollars just to go and put games up. Or maybe these indie devs can just make millions of dollars on their own from games they spend like 2 or 3 years on because they take their time with it, or even 10 years like the likes of Cuphead, you know? If you rush games, you're giving your investors less and less of a reason to give a shit. But the problem with relying on investors to be able to run the way you are is that you have to continue producing content. So you have to push your developers really hard. So EA are fucked. They're completely screwed. They're done. They have made a massive, stupid, they are completely screwed. They are in this vice. And I'm not saying you should for a moment feel sorry for them. You absolutely should not feel sorry for these people, because their CEOs, their CEO Andrew Wilson, these people would be making a tremendous amount of money, regardless of how much their company's hemorrhaging, because it's highly likely that this is obviously overvalued, because look how much it went down. Honestly, like the proper value for it is probably closer to about $80. You can see that it was reasonably stable around $80, and this is accounting for inflation as well. Let's just say that the actual price is $80. Will EA be okay with that? And the answer is no, because EA can't have that be the ceiling. They can't have that be the ceiling. They can't be that ceiling. And you could say, okay, well then, where do EA go now? And they just can't. Even if they are to try, they don't have room to innovate, because if they start making all these no studio wants to get bought by EA, because EA are just going to cannibalize them, right? EA are just going to cannibalize them like they have done with other little studios that they've acquired. Like, there have been videos done on that by other content creators that you're welcome to check out. Just check out EA cannibalizes studio, or EA buys, acquires, and then destroys studio, or shuts down studio, because they do it. They just... The industry is broken because you have these investors and these publishers in this fucking toxic relationship where they forget that the point of an investor is to give a company money to do the best thing it can do. What EA should have done, and this is in my humble opinion as someone who has studied business and has a degree in it, in strategy and entrepreneurship. Alright, this is what I feel that EA should have done off the block. EA decided to go public. EA should not have sold more than 49% of its shares. They may be in a 51-49 position. I think that mental kind of, that condition that you have a constant majority is incredibly important, because that way, even if your investors sell all their stocks, you've still got 1% of the business. I think that's incredibly important. So say there was a total of $1 billion invested, you still have $510 million to do whatever you wanted with. You can go in a completely different direction with $510 million. That's a shit ton of money. And then you'd basically, in the shareholder agreement, you'd have to say, look, if we make a game that's terrible, we completely understand if you want to leave us and take your stocks. There's no hard feelings, And I know that sounds really childish and naive, but if you think about it, there should be no investors. There should be absolutely no investors in this. And in my humble opinion, what they should do is let the investors fucking buy out, take their fucking golden handshakes, give the studios money to continue to make games, because that's what they're good at. And these games would sell better, I think, ironically, if EA wasn't fronting them. EA should not be involved with these. EA should not be involved with anything that's not football. FIFA 19, cool. Let EA develop that. Let them make that their entire fucking mess, which I think they already do anyways. I think that they are heavily involved with FIFA 19, but any other game should not have anything to do with them, because EA, DICE, BioWare, it's just going to be a shit show. It's just going to be a shit show when it happens, and I mean, if you look at this, with what's happened with EA, with its reputation, with the fact that the game industry's like lack of innovation with major publishers, there's no reason to invest in this anymore. The best thing you can do as an investor is look into smaller companies that are making good games and that have solid marketing strategies. And if you are finding games like Revolver, please tell me they're public. Fuck, they're not. They are not public. The moment you see these guys go public, you buy their fucking stock. You buy their stock. The moment these guys go public, if they do, you buy their stock. They probably won't, because they've probably been seeing what's happened with EA and other developers, but these are the kind of companies that make fantastic games that you need to support. This is how you will make money as an investor, by investing in fantastic companies that produce good games, that have a good fan following, and that they have room for growth. Because when they release their stocks, they're going to be undervalued immediately. You should know for a fact that, like, if you know anything about investment, when anyone releases shares, they're generally very low value because they're unsure of what their company is actually going to be worth. They underestimate the value to make it more interesting to investors, and then you get in then, and that's when you make the thousands of percentile of profit. So yeah, not EA. If you want to make money, you got to keep an eye on these indie devs, all right? Because these people, what? Fuck, what? Is there stocks? I'm being trolled. I'm annoyed. No, oh yeah, they made a fake coin. Cool. Alright, anyways, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and just go do something else, probably. I'm making an EA related video that's scripted, so it's gonna be pretty intense. It's gonna be much better worded than this. But thank you very much for watching. Stay cool. See you later. And yeah, if you are looking to get into investment, please don't do it with EA, because EA are just not gonna grow. They're just in a really bad state. Whatever they say, and you're not gonna make any short-term gains from these guys. All right, bye bye.